Here we go, folks. It's known as partial application. This is our last code we see today. We're going to create a function multiply, takes an a and b, returns a by b. We're hoping to convert it into a function multiply by 2. So what we're going to do is take into this pre-fill function, the multiply function that takes in 2 inputs, and the thing we want to pre-fill. Multiply by 2 is just multiply, pre-fill with one argument as 2. Right? Just multiply with the 2 already pre-filled. We're going to take those 2, throw them into pre-fill function, create our brand new function inner, which is actually what multiply by 2 is really going to be. Multiply by 2 looks all nice, pretty name, but really it's just going to be inner. And inner is going to have a backpack full of our multiply function. There it is, an fn, and the pre-filled value. And I have a feeling when we run inner by its new global name multiplied by 2, it's going to take in 5 and combine that with the pre-filled value from the backpack and run multiply by 2 on it, and out it's going to come. We're going to have converted our multiply by function, see I say multiply by 2 many times, multiply function from arity of 2 to arity of 1. And it's going to be a vital technique in practice. We saw that if we want our dream, and let's not lose sight of it, people, that we want one thing and one thing only, to be able to list off our lines of code, not as obscure, hard to understand, descriptive, this computer is what you need to do, or undescriptive, this computer is what you need to do, and that line can affect anything else, anywhere else in my app. If I want to have my dream where I can have each single line be nicely labeled and know that its only consequences in that line, and then that's passed to the next line, and then the only consequence of that line is in that line, past the next line, then folk, my goodness, I'm willing to suffer a little bit to adjust my functions that have 2 inputs, when if I'm going to be listing off functions one by one, each of them needs to take 1 input, return 1 output. Then that be the input of the next function, and it's only going to take 1 input, and that's going to return an output. I can just list off my lines of code. I'm willing to suffer the process of adjusting my functions from taking 2 inputs to 1. And we're about to see for our very last portion of code the process by which we can appear to edit our functions with arity of 2, inputs of 2 elements, into a function that only expects an input of 1. With no rewriting. Now, to be clear, this is a simplified example. Declaring multiply by 2 doesn't seem to be that hard. But for many functions, it's going to be more complex. And also, even here, this is a very nice way of declaring multiply by 2. I'm explicitly determining I'm going to use this previous code you recognize and then pre-fill its value. All right, here we go, people. Line 1, the last section. Here we go, Seth. What are we doing in line 1?
We're declaring a function named multiply.
There it is. Into memory we go. And we declare a function named multiply. Uh-oh. What's its arity, Seth?
2.
It's an arity of 2. 2 inputs, A and B, return out A multiplied by B. There it is. Thank you, Seth. Virginia, multiply's been saved. What's our next line, Virginia? Notice, by the way, for whatever reason I've declared this in the old style. We'll live with it. What's our next line say to do, Virginia?
We're declaring a function called prefill function.
Prefill function. There it is. I actually did leave that purposely. I knew it said the old style, but I wanted you to remember it. Nothing has changed. Sam, penultimate line here, left-hand side, we're declaring just what?
Multiply by 2.
Yeah, just a label. Multiply by 2. Okay. We already know, by the way, though, it's going to be the output of calling what, Sam?
Prefill function.
Absolutely, which is going to return out inner that don't look anything like multiply by 2 to me. But that's because to create multiply by 2 from multiply, we're going to have to do some really smart wrangling. Mainly, putting the multiply function and its pre-filled value of the number 2 in the backpack of the inner function and get some memory, such that when we run multiply by 2 really inner, we're going to, behind the scenes, be running fn, whatever that, multiply, which will be in the backpack. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. So we've got to go and execute what, Jasmine? What function are we going to go and execute in order to get a result into multiply by 2?
Prefill function.
Prefill function, she's spot on, with the input of multiply, there it is, and the number 2, and its result's going to be stored into what, Jasmine?
It's going to be stored into multiply by 2.
Multiply by 2, she's spot on. We create a brand new...
Execution context.
Well done, folk. There it is. And it's really, honestly, just to kind of set up this execution context, to get a function we can return out that has a backpack with our 2 important things in it that we can then use. So, with that in mind, what is the first thing into the local memory that will end up in our backpack, Virginia?
Function.
Well, yeah.
Multiply.
Multiply, given what parameter name? What's the parameter name multiply is given?
Fn.
Fn, well done. No, you're spot on, Virginia. Pre-filled value then gets filled in with what, Virginia?
2.
Pre-filled value is filled in with 2. I like the look of this, people. It has all the stuff I need. There's multiply with its input of A and B and its output of A multiplied by B. Slightly condensed. And then the final thing, Andrew, same time as last time, what are we saving here? This is what we're actually going to end up using. This is the all-powerful bit. Go ahead, Andrew.
We're saving the function, inner.
Inner. Andrew, help me out this time. We're not just saving a function inner.
We're saving the local...
Oh, we're saving a link to...
Oh yeah, the link to the local memory.
Exactly, a link to the surrounding local memory. Well done to Andrew. We get a link to... all the surrounding local memory. There it is. And then, David, we're not going to run inner, of course not. We want to use it to pretend, to masquerade as multiply by 2. So what are we going to do with inner?
We're returning it.
We're returning it. Well done. We return it out into what global label, David?
Multiply by 2.
Into multiply by 2. There it is. It was born as inner. Not anymore. Now we're masquerading it as multiply by 2. What a con. That ain't no multiply by 2. But in its backpack, David, is some really useful stuff. What is in that backpack that multiply by 2 is going to need?
The function multiply.
Yeah, under what label?
Fn.
Fn, so multiply, which takes in A and B and returns out A by B. And what else?
Pre-filled value.
Pre-filled value. Which is what?
2.
2. This combo here of function code and backpack is everything we need. We've got the functionality. When we run multiply by 2, really inner, I have a feeling it's going to run Fn on, well, whatever we pass into inner and pre-filled value. And then it's going to be whatever we pass in by 2. That's it, and we're going to return that out. We're not really editing our function. We're creating a brand new function that's got all the important stuff in its backpack. And so this execution context, everybody, is what off the stack?
Removed.
Yeah, removed, popped off the stack. Let's actually put our call stack up so we can keep track of it. We're in global again now. And what do we go and declare next? Vivanesh? The label?
Yeah.
Label, which label?
Result label.
Result label, there it is, excellent from Vivanesh. And we run what looks like a really simple line. Low key, behind the scenes, it definitely isn't. Let's see, multiply by 2, input of 5. We create a new, we're almost there everybody, a brand new execution context. Multiply by 2 is called with 5. Does multiply by 2 just take in a num and multiply by 2? No, because we don't want to have to create a brand new function multiply by 2. We want to be able to edit the arity of our existing pre-save functions. Now, it may seem like this is a bit of a lot of work to do, but in the end, we don't build pre-fill function. It's there for us in any functional language, not JavaScript. So we have to pre-build this in JavaScript. But from now on, that allows us to edit existing functions inputs, which we're going to have to do quite a bit in practice. Okay. Mainly, by the way, because things like if we use certain APIs, that expect multiple inputs, we need to be able to adjust their input, not by actually editing the function, but by, because that's already gone, but instead by wrapping them up in the backpack of a new function that then calls that function with some of the inputs pre-inserted. Okay, new execution context, and actually, it's not the most sophisticated ever, but it's not a small one either. So I'm thinking it's just multiplied by 2, but of course it's not. Here we go. There it is. And it's an interesting one. What's the first thing, Michael, inside multiply by 2? Well, firstly, everybody, multiply by 2 was born as what function name? Everyone together? Inner. Well done. So Michael, when I run multiply by 2, I'm really running inner. I'm not going back up. I literally returned its code out. There it is. And what is the parameter?
The live input.
Live input. He's spot on. I called it that because when multiply by 2 is run, that's the one we're actually going to provide at that moment. Sort of live, rather than the one that's pre-filled in the backpack for multiply by 2. Okay, there it is. And next line, Bhivanesh, inside of multiply by 2, inner, output, yeah, declare output. And now its output will be the result of calling fn with live input. These are we're going to fill these in, aren't we, in a second, pre-filled value, which is really saying fn, which is really everybody together. It's not in local memory of multiply by 2, it's in the backpack, and it is what? Multiply. Well done, folk. Multiply. And our live input, that's live right now. And that is what, everybody? 5. And our pre-filled value, we get that from the backpack as well. And it is, everyone? 2. We look like we're running multiply by 2 with the input of 5. Nah. We're running multiply with the input of 5 dynamically there and with the pre-filled value from the backpack of 2. It's going to return out, everybody? 10. Well done. And we store that into output. And then what do we do with that output, folk? We return it out into result. And no one's any the wiser. Multiply by 2 input of 5, returned out 10. We're able to use that function now as an arity of one function anywhere in our listing off of individual lines of code.